Hello everybody, welcome to this review video. So far we have learned rules and theories related to word stress, rhythm and intonation, and we believe that these suprasegmental features are important because if we learn them, we can improve our speech comprehensibility. Well, let's delve into every single of these suprasegmental features once again. First, word stress. As we learned, words consist of syllables, and among these syllables, there is only one syllable that takes primary stress. It means that syllable is longer, louder, and higher in pitch. Three examples are provided here. The first one, communication. The second one, invest. The last one, engineer. So, as you noticed, in the first one, the syllable K is stressed. The second word, the second part, vest. And the last word, the last part, near. Two-syllable nouns, adjectives, and adverbs. Well, most of the time, two-syllable nouns, adjectives, and adverbs take a stress in the first syllable. Some examples are provided here. Let's read them. Memphis, grizzly, future, easy, happy, lively, often, always, seldom. As we learned, stress is often predictable if certain affixes or spellings are involved. Words containing prefixes tend to be stressed on the first syllable of the root element. Let's read these examples. Award, surprise, proposal, complaint, unhealthy, bereaved, asleep, incredible, declare, explain, forget, obtain. As we learned, two-syllable words sometimes function as verb and sometimes they function as noun. If the two-syllable words begin with one of these prefixes, like for, out, over, under, and up, and if they play the role of a noun, a stress falls on the first part. Some examples are provided in the table. Forearm, forecast, outlook, outline, overall, overcoat, underdog, underwear, upshot, upkeep. But if the same word played the role of a verb, the second part, or let's say the second syllable, takes a stress. Two examples are provided here. In the first example, the two-syllable word plays the role of a verb, so the second part is stressed. But in the second example, the two-syllable word plays the role of a noun. Therefore, the first syllable is stressed. Let's read them. Don't overload the pack animals. The truck carried an overload. Below, a list of two-syllable words are provided. They are nouns if they take a stress on the first syllable, but they are verbs if a stress falls on the second syllable. Well, let's read them. conduct, conduct, attribute, attribute, combat, combat, conflict, conflict, contract, contract, decrease, decrease, escort, escort, impact, impact, increase, increase, insult, insult, object, object, permit, permit, present, present, project, project, refund, refund, subject, subject, produce, produce, suspect, suspect. And then let's read the example. If they permit you, you can have a parking permit. If they permit you, you can have a parking permit. Rhythm is another suprasegmental feature that will help our speaking to be comprehensible for our interlocutors. Well, what is the definition of rhythm? As you see it here, it is an ordered recurrent alternation of strong and weak syllables in an utterance. So, how can we produce such strong and weak syllables? You should have the knowledge of word stress that we have already discussed that in our videos. Also, you should have the knowledge of the distinction between content word and function words that we have also learned it, but we will review that in next slide. So, native speakers, they expect the speakers, or let's say international speakers, produce such kind of alternation of strong and weak syllables. If international speakers do not produce such alternation, it would be strange, or let's say difficult for native speakers to understand what international speakers are saying. In other words, or let's say technically, they say that someone's speech is not comprehensible. Well, let's try this example. The deadline to submit this project is tomorrow evening. The deadline to submit this project is tomorrow evening. Well, as I told you, we should have the knowledge of distinction between content words and function words to be able to produce a good alternation between weak and strong syllables. Content words are nouns, main verbs, possessive pronouns, interrogatives, negatives, adverbs, adverbial particles. But function words, they are like articles, auxiliary verbs, personal pronouns, possessive adjectives, demonstrative adjectives, prepositions, and conjunctions. There are many grammatical words. You know many of these words, but not by their technical, or let's say grammar names. To make it easier for you to understand what I mean by these words, I tried to make some color. So, for example, possessive pronouns are green, and in the example, when you see a green word, it is possessive pronoun. So just pay attention to the corresponding colors. Function words are, in general, small grammatical words that should not be pronounced or highlighted as loud as content words, unless we want to emphasize them purposefully. There is a conversation here between a student and a librarian. Take your time, read this conversation, and then we read it together. All right, let's try it. I want to check out this book. I also found this key on the library floor. It might be yours. Where did you find it? Near the front desk. Thanks to bring it in. I didn't lose any key, but I will send it to Lost and Found. As you noticed, I emphasized the content words, but my pitch was not as loud and high as the ones for function words. Another rule that can help us improve our rhythm is rhythm in and phrases and in acronyms. Whenever you have and phrases, the second word, or let's say the word after and, takes the stress. And when there is an acronym, the last syllable in the acronym takes the stress. Let's read these examples. I send this key to the Lost and Found. I send this key to the Lost and Found. You need at least a 3.5 GPA to apply for this job. You need at least a 3.5 GPA to apply for this job. Next suprasegmental feature is intonation. What is intonation? When we speak, we shift our pitch in a pattern known as intonation. The message we wish to convey to our interlocutor must be delivered in the appropriate tone. We can convey the right emotions to our interlocutor by using the right tone of voice, and they will know what we anticipate of them. So, one of the functions of intonation is to convey the emotions. For example, a rise-fall intonation can show surprise or sadness. In this conversation, the first line is, they will shut down the whole internet for 1 whole month. There are 3 answers, each one following the same intonation pattern, showing surprise or sadness. No, that's horrible. That's unimaginable. Intonation and grammar. With the tone that we choose in our speaking, we can say if it is a yes-no question, WH question, or a statement. In other words, we can say whether we expect the interlocutor to provide us with an answer, or we are just transferring some certainty or a piece of information, and we do not expect anything in return. There is an example provided here. It is a conversation between a student and a librarian. Hi, I'm new here. I couldn't come to the student orientation. Could you give me a few quick pointers about the library? As you notice, the first statement had a falling intonation. The second one, a falling intonation, because the student is giving some pieces of information to the librarian. At the end, the student asks a question with a rising intonation, telling the librarian to provide him or her some information. The librarian in response says, "Sure. What's your major area of study? Are you from engineering department? Are you from engineering department?" As you notice, the librarian started with a falling intonation. Sure. It is showing certainty. And then continues with an interrogative questions with falling intonation. And at the end, uses yes-no question with rising intonation. It means the student should provide some answer for the librarian. Thought groups. Well, every speech is made up of distinct thought groups. These thought groups have certain intonation characteristics that make it easier for listeners to understand what is being spoken. A modest rising tone on the last content word, followed by a small pause, are characteristics of thought groups. So when the speaker pause after each thought group, they give this chance to the listener to digest the ideas. Thought groups are good to learn because they are other rules of intonation that can help you improve your speech comprehensibility. Let's practice this example. I was wondering if I could make a reservation for a study carrel for next Saturday. As you noticed, there were 3 rising tones at the end of each thought group, meaning that the speaker is not yet done with his utterance. And then at the end, since it was a statement, there is a falling intonation on the content word Saturday. Let's read it again. I was wondering if I could make a reservation for a study carrel for next Saturday. I hope you enjoyed this video. Thank you so much.